This video is brought to you by Incognito. There's no political party on earth that's had more of a letdown year than the Canadian Conservatives. Coming into 2025, they were expected to sweep into power and win one of the biggest majorities in Canadian history, but that's no longer the case. Their reversal of fortunes is largely a consequence of Trump, who was threatening to tariff or annex the entire country, and Mark Carney, who replaced the historically unpopular Justin Trudeau as leader of the Liberal Party last month, and has proven a remarkably adept politician. However, while it's rarely acknowledged in the international press, the dramatic polling swing we've seen in Canada recently isn't just about Trump and Carney. It's also a consequence of the fact that, under their leader Pierre Poilievre, the Conservatives are running a pretty rubbish campaign. And as the polls turn more and more against them, some in the Conservative camp have already started pointing fingers, with their attention apparently centering on Poilievre and his team. While there are still weeks left in the campaign and anything can happen, the odds of a Conservative victory, majority or minority, are falling every day. So in this video, we'll take a look at why the Conservatives are falling apart, and if there's anything they can do about it. Never miss an episode and always feel in the loop by subscribing and ringing the bell. So let's get straight into it. Why are the Canadian Conservatives collapsing? While Trump and Carney have undeniably helped revive the Liberals, the Canadian Conservatives aren't helping themselves at the moment. For starters, Conservatives for months, if not years, were aiming to have this election be a referendum on two things: Justin Trudeau and the consumer carbon tax. With Trudeau being replaced by Carney and Carney effectively repealing the tax, the Conservative campaign has been somewhat rudderless. But even when they were facing off against Trudeau, the Conservative strategy was questionable. You see, in Canadian politics, it was not uncommon to see opposition parties work together to bring down the incumbent government, even if they didn't agree on everything. In the mid-2000s, left-wing New Democratic Party leader Jack Layton and right-wing Conservative leader Stephen Harper famously plotted together against Prime Minister Paul Martin's Liberal government, ultimately working together to vote no confidence in November 2005. Ultimately, both got what they wanted by working together. Harper was able to become Prime Minister, and Layton eventually became leader of the opposition. Both results came at the expense of the Liberals. Now, with Poilievre and NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, no such relationship exists. Instead, Poilievre has chosen to mock Singh and put him on the same footing as Trudeau. While Poilievre succeeded in making Singh remarkably unpopular, it also made Singh refuse to cooperate with Poilievre, even after Singh ripped up his supply and confidence deal with Trudeau in September 2024. Ultimately, with Poilievre refusing to work with Singh and vice versa, both are now on the verge of losing to a political newcomer in Mark Carney. The Conservatives also have a candidate selection problem. In the swing riding of Windsor-Tecumseh Lakeshore, located in Ontario, the Conservative candidate was pulled out of the race because he previously voiced support for public hangings and joked that former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau should receive the death penalty. In the riding of Abbotsford-South Langley in British Columbia, local Conservatives seem to want to nominate former member of the Legislative Assembly, Michael de Jong, who served the area for 30 years. Instead, the National Conservatives nominated Sukhman Singh Gill, a 25-year-old blueberry farmer who'd not won an election before. De Jong is now running as an independent, and if there's enough vote splitting, it could make a safe Conservative seat fall into Liberal hands. Candidates also seem to be dropping like flies in other ridings as well. Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who recently won a snap election to remain in power till 2029, has also been snipping at Poilievre, reportedly refusing to offer help in the crucial province of Ontario, and even said his caucus won't have time to stump for Poilievre. As you can see, Poilievre and Ford aren't necessarily the strongest of allies, and that could hurt Poilievre if Ford refuses to put his political machine behind him. Lastly, and most crucially, Canadians just don't like Poilievre. The latest Angus Reid poll has Poilievre at an approval rating of -20, while Carney enjoys an approval rating of +22. Poilievre's large lead among men has disappeared greatly, with him only holding a 2-point lead over Carney with male voters. Among women voters, Carney leads Poilievre by 19 points. Among older respondents, who are usually more likely to actually vote, Carney leads Poilievre by 4 points among men over 55, and an astonishing 27 points among women over 55. Poilievre isn't safe with young people either. Young men aged 18 to 34 back Carney by 6 points, and young women by 23. This is in part because of Poilievre's aggressive rhetoric and in-your-face style of campaigning. While this worked against an unpopular incumbent like Trudeau, against Carney with the country rallying around the flag, it's made Poilievre seem divisive, and worse than that, Trump-like to much of the Canadian electorate. It also doesn't help that Poilievre has had a fair few gaffes lately, such as dodging a question about the candidate controversy in Abbotsford South Langley we discussed earlier, and saying that young women should be able to buy homes before their biological clocks run out. All of this has contributed to the anger many Conservative political operatives reportedly feel within the party, blaming Poilievre and campaign manager Jenny Byrne, who they accuse of running a campaign from 2024 in this very different 2025 landscape. This infighting threatens to push the Conservatives into a vicious cycle, where weak polling incurs infighting, which pushes them down in the polls, which means more infighting, etc. Nonetheless, as tempting as it might be to write Poilievre off, history is on his side, as both the 1984 and 1993 Canadian elections show. In both these elections, long-time Prime Ministers subbed out for new leaders, who enjoyed a brief poll bounce but were ultimately beaten. But those elections were not on the same level of intensity as this campaign, given the threats posed by Trump. The electoral dynamics are different here as well. Most of the new prospective Liberal voters are not from the Conservatives, but former NDP voters who want to stop Poilievre at all costs and are unlikely to swing back. This bleed from the NDP to the Liberals could continue further. Only 34% of current NDP supporters say they are definitely going to vote for the NDP, compared to 73% of Conservative voters voting Conservative and 54% of Liberal voters voting for the Liberals. Furthermore, 51% of NDP poll respondents are only fairly committed to the party, and even if only a fraction of those break for the Liberals, they could be on track for a massive majority. All in all, the Canadian Conservatives are on the verge of blowing it all, and while there are still weeks of campaigning and debates to come, Poilievre will have to stem the infighting as soon as possible to stand a chance. Now, as we've demonstrated in this video, there's a huge amount of uncertainty in the world of politics and current affairs, often with few easy solutions. Unfortunately, this can be the case online too. There are all kinds of bad actors out there that want to try and use you to make a quick buck. Take, for instance, data brokers. They sell your data to businesses and marketing agencies, leading to more spam calls, texts, and emails. Or, even worse, they can sell your data to even worse actors who can then go on to use your identity. Some data brokers have even been charged with conspiracy to commit mail and wire fraud for intentionally supplying data lists of elderly and vulnerable people to scammers. Fortunately, today's sponsor, Incogni, can help to rectify this. They work on your behalf to request your personal data removal. They also deal with any objections and, to make sure that your personal information isn't shared by the brokers again, conduct repeated removal requests. And with their family and friends plan, they will even do this for you and up to 3 of, well, your friends and family. So create an account with our link in the description, grant Incogni the ability to work on your behalf, and sit back as they make you safer. Plus, by using our link, you'll get an exclusive 60% off an annual Incogni plan. Thanks for checking it out, and thanks to Incogni for sponsoring this video.